Good evening and welcome. Welcome. This is part 3 with Benjamin Lee of how to stop your mind from stealing from you, becoming a master trader. Ben, how are you this evening?
I'm doing wonderful. Can you guys hear me? I just want to make sure that the audio is good. Are you hearing Peter in the background, or I wonder if I need to mute him? Everything's good?
Says great. Hold on. You can pop out the questions to read them better.
Okay, perfect. Good. I see it.
Brent, Scott, Douglas, Andrew, Rick, John, Joe. Good to have you guys here. Kyle, Kay, Brad. Who is that guy? Brad Agunis. That name is so familiar, isn't it?
Sounds really familiar.
Okay, so anyway, Ben, would you like to just take it from here?
Yeah, I would love to.
Okay, without further ado, Benjamin Lee, How to Stop Your Mind from Stealing from You, Part 3, How to Become a Master Trader.
Thank you, Peter. For those of you that were at the first webinar, you can tell I actually upgraded the dollars to 20s. I couldn't find one that had hundreds in there, so I figured, hey, at least it's 20 times better than what we started with. And as Peter said, my name is Benjamin Lee. I'm the Director of Trading Psychology for ShadowTrader.net. And before we start, I just wanted to give you a little background because somebody asked what my qualifications were in the first webinar. So basically, I've been trading for over a decade now. I've traded futures, I've traded Forex, I've traded options, I've traded equities, I've traded for 2 prop firms, I've traded my own account. I've gone 8 months without a losing day in day trading the ES, which is extremely difficult to do, minus commissions. I've traded million share positions in equities before, and really this whole course and all of the stuff I'm sharing with you now basically all came about because I needed to work on myself to become the trader I am today. So really I've used all this stuff, I've created all this stuff, and I use it every single day when I trade. So let's get started. Let's take a look at, again, the disclaimer. You guys can just read this. I've read it before. Basically, futures, forex, and options has large potential rewards, but large potential risks. So obviously, you guys are already familiar with that. So let's just get started. All right. So the first email I wanted to read you. Again, this is all from the feedback that we asked of you guys, and we really appreciate you sharing your challenges with us because it made it much easier for me to figure out what material I needed to deliver to you all. So the first one is, to be perfectly honest, I'm not sure what my #1 issue is, but I feel that I struggle with believing that I can actually make trading a career. I understand on a practical level that it's absolutely possible, but somewhere inside it doesn't seem real for me. I have the passion and determination. I just need to clear some beliefs that are holding me back and consequently sabotaging my progress. So here is a great example of a limiting belief, right? For this particular person who doesn't believe, right, that they can actually become a professional trader or a master trader. So until they actually overcome and eliminate this belief, it's going to be very, very difficult for them to make it to a point where they're consistently trading profitably. And this leads into the part I really want to share with you. It's the trading flow chart, and really it's a visual representation of all of the pieces that are required for you to become a master trader, and I'll share that with you in a couple slides. Here's another one. Hello, Peter. I hope you're having a great and restful weekend. One day recently you were filling in for Brad. You sent a call out for traders to email you with their biggest psychological challenge. I know that Shadow Trader is very focused on the psychological aspect, which is good for me because I need to get my psychology in check so that I can be consistently profitable. If I had to summarize it, I'd say my biggest challenge is an inability to master greed and fear. My fear of loss causes me to hesitate getting into trades until it's too late. Greed causes me to wait out a losing trade for a swing to profitability so I can stay in losing trades too long. A desire to protect what I have, fear, causes me to get out of profitable trades early. only to watch them continue in my chosen direction. Greed causes me then to get back in once again too late, as a trade peaks then turns against me. So here's another challenge that a lot of traders have, and this will kind of parlay into what we call seeking perfection when you're trading. And one of the things I'll talk about in a later slide is how perfection is the enemy. Because if you're focused on perfection, fear, hesitation will manifest, and I'll show you how that comes about in a little bit. And then the last one, I look for tops and bottoms and am often a day or two early in putting on positions. Usually on a short futures trade, I find it hard to take the first loss and then start averaging up more than once as the trade goes against me. How many of you actually average in when you're into a losing trade? How many of you actually have that as a strategy? Never? Okay. Yes? Okay. One yes, one never, one no, one I do, one I used to, yes, okay. And it's okay to average in. It really is okay to average in, but there has to be a plan for you to average in, okay? Now, if you're doing it because of fear, because of the fear of losing your capital, the fear of having a losing trade, right, then that's not the correct intent. If you're averaging in because, for example, let's say the market is coming to a area which you have, where you have an interest in taking a trade, right? It's not a trade that has phenomenal. It's not a phenomenal signal. Let's say it's not one of those where you have a very, very high probability. But let's say you have a slight edge, right? But there's also another trade location that's a little bit farther down that could be a better position. That could be actually be a better entry. But you don't want to miss it because you're looking at this and you say, hey, listen, there's still an opportunity here, but I see this other level here that's just beyond that, right? But I don't want to miss a trade in case. So then what you can do is you can look at that first entry and say, I'm not going to go in a full position. I'm going to average in if price continues to hit that second trade location. Does that make sense? So then you're being strategic about averaging in. You're not doing it because of fear, right? So that's the major difference between averaging in with the correct intent and averaging in with bad intent. So here is the trading flow chart. And as you can see here, there's three pieces to it. There's your trading system, there's your psychology, and then there's your strategies on how you strengthen your psychology. And if you look, they're all kind of interchangeable. In other words, this is basically the holistic approach that you have to take to become a master trader. So if you look at the system, first you need to decide or understand which type of trading system you have. Is it a trending system, or is it a rotational system or reversion to the mean? Obviously, you need to identify what type of market you're trading in at that time and apply which trades work well for the trending trades or the reversion to the mean trades. Then you need to identify what your win-loss ratio for your system is. That's if you executed it perfectly. That's if you took every single trade, you didn't filter anything out. What is the best win-loss ratio your system could have? Because then that's really the benchmark that you try to reach, okay? Because if you're executing your trading plan and your system to perfection, okay, there's a difference between executing to perfection and then seeking perfection, okay? I hope you guys understand the difference between the two, right? If you're executing your trading plan and your trading system to perfection, you should be matching that win-loss ratio. If you're not, you're always a little bit below that, if that makes sense. Then you have to understand what the market is trying to do. And again, this works for basically all instruments. If you're trading options, futures, forex, equities, right? Is the market moving up? Is it moving down? Or is it moving sideways, right? And then you have to determine how well the market is accomplishing that. If it's in a trend, if it's moving up, how well is it doing that? Is it going gangbusters? Is it going really, really high, really, really quickly? So then, yeah, it's going really well. Or is it just, it's been trending, right, but then all of a sudden you see it consolidating and it's just going sideways. So that's basically a neutral signal. And then, if it's going down when you're expecting it to go up, then obviously that's, it's not a good or bad signal on how well it's accomplishing that. And then your decision support tools. Basically, this is for futures. This can be utilized in a whole host of different ways. Obviously, options is a little bit different. You'll have your Greeks instead, but you look at price action, chart patterns, news. What I utilize is volume profile and volume composite. Volume, certain indicators, the context, and how the current market, the current marketing conditions play in context with what's happened recently and in the past. Market profile, and then volume impressions, or as we call it, or as I call it, the footprint. So once you actually have a very deep understanding of your system like this, right? You have your decision support tools. You understand what type of trading system you have. Is it trending or rotational? You understand what the win-loss ratio is, what the optimum level is. Understanding what the market is attempting to do and how well it's doing that, then that's basically the piece of the trading system that plugs into the psychology and the strategy. So then the next section is psychology. And there's really 9 areas that you need to focus on. The first one is beliefs, right? You have 2 types of beliefs, or actually 3 really. There's limiting beliefs, there's neutral beliefs that don't really have a positive or a negative charge to it, and then there's empowering beliefs. And if you remember in the first email, that particular trader already had a limiting belief that they could never, or it'd be very difficult for them to make trading their career, right? So until they overcame that, the chances of them succeeding and being a consistently profitable trader are very slim, okay? Then there's the body frame and how you breathe, your posture and your energy level when you're trading. Actually, I just got back from a Tony Robbins event, and I've been going to his events for the last 12 years. I just went to Unleash the Power Within in LA here just over the weekend. And one of the things that he says is emotion is created by motion. And when you're breathing and when your posture is a certain way, it elicits certain patterns for particular emotions. So if I were to ask you what a depressed person would look like, and go ahead and please answer in the chat box. If I were to ask you what a depressed person would look like, tell me how they would look. So would they be slumped over, or would their shoulders be back? Would their breathing be shallow, or would it be full and deep? And what would their energy level be like? Would it be high or would it be low? Okay, so I'm looking at slumped over, limp, slouching, shallow, low, shallow breathing, low energy, slumped, shallow, low. Okay, great. Low energy, fear, shoulder slumped, shallow, slumped. Okay, so basically everyone out of the about 15 people that answered, they all said the same thing. Shoulder slumped, low energy, and then shallow breathing. So how many times, if you think about it, when you trade, do you actually get into that type of posture, into that type of body frame? How many of you actually breathe very shallow? How many of you, your posture, your shoulders are down? How many of your energy level is low? Okay, so that's obviously a piece that you need to become aware of. And then relationships. And this kind of plugs into the beliefs, where you have to understand the relationships you have with success, with money, and then familiar relationships. And what I mean by each of those is, obviously, if you think that money is the root of all evil, then it's going to be very difficult for you to become consistently profitable. Okay, or success. if you for some reason resent successful people, your subconscious is going to find ways to keep you from being successful because you'd never want to resent yourself. And then from a familial standpoint, if your parent or your role model said some things to you while you were a kid, or if they said you weren't enough, or you'll never amount to anything, you'll have those types of relationships in your mind, and they can obviously affect your training. You're trading it at a very, very deep level. Then meaning. What type of meaning do you give to things that happen to you? Right? If you have a losing trade, how do you frame that? Is it a positive experience or is it a negative experience? Right? The one great thing about Jim Dalton is he frames a losing trade as paying for information. Right? Now, how many of you actually frame it that way? How many of you frame that a losing trade, you're just paying for information? Okay, and Brad, and Brad taught that as well. Great. So you guys hear it more often. That's awesome. All right, and then the next section is awareness. One of the very important pieces of trading is to become aware. And what do I mean by awareness? It's being present in the moment, because a lot of the times, I've seen a lot of people trade, and they have their email open, they have their cell phone next to them, they're texting people, they're doing this, they're doing that, and if you're not paying full attention to the market, if you're not fully present, if you're not engaged, if you're not aware, then there's a lot of information that flies by you in a few seconds. So it's all about understanding how to become aware of, first of all, your strengths and your weaknesses, right? Then bringing that full attention and presence to your trading, and then understanding and managing your emotional states, okay? Because if you're not aware of your emotional states and how they affect your trading, then you'll never be able to correct them. So the first thing you need to do is to bring awareness to your trading, to your emotional states. So at that point, you can consciously make decisions on how to improve or to eliminate certain negative emotional states. Then there's patterns. The patterns that you run from a thought process, from an emotional process, from a language process, and a psychological process. Just like the depression example I gave you, what do you think that person's thinking? What language patterns or what thought patterns are they going through in their head when they're depressed? Negative thoughts. Okay, what else? What other things might be going through a depressed person's head? Okay, negative, I'm going to lose. Fear of losing. Okay. Not necessarily trading per se, but if you see a depressed person, what do you think is going on in their head? Self-doubt, negative self-talk, okay. Anxiety, defeat, okay. Like, a couple things, a couple language patterns they could be running is, why does this always happen to me? Why am I so stupid? So they have these language patterns and these thought patterns, and when you have the thought patterns and the physiology, the body frame as we spoke about earlier, it'll be very difficult for you to get out of those patterns unless you're obviously aware of them. So you see how this is all starting to tie together? So that's why this is a very holistic approach, and there's no, like I said, magic bullet or magic pill, to actually get you to become a master trader, because these are all the things that you need to understand. And what I try to do in the course and in my conversations with you is to arm you with the information to be able to work on yourself, to be able to understand where you are currently and where you need to go. All right, then the next section is experiences. Your experiences in your childhood, as an adolescent, as an adult, and obviously, when you're trading and investing. So if you had some very negative childhood experiences, that could affect you in your trading. If you had some negative trading days, then that'll definitely affect you in your trading. Then understanding leverage and how to use leverage to get you to push yourself to that next point. Because a lot of the times, it's very easy for us to do things when we wake up on the right side of the bed. If the stars are aligned, if our spouse tells us they love us 100 times before we start trading, if our kids are perfect angels before we start trading, if they've already made their own lunch or whatever it is, if basically if all the stars align, it's very easy to get yourself to do something. But how do you get yourself to do something that you don't necessarily want to do when you wake up on the wrong side of the bed? When your spouse doesn't tell you I love you 100 times, or they even irritate you in the morning, or your kids are terrorizing you right before. So how do you get yourself to take action that you don't necessarily want to take when you're in something less than an optimal state? Okay, that's what I mean by leverage. So how do you create your own leverage to get yourself to do something? And all of you guys have utilized leverage before. If you use leverage all the time, actually, every single day, how do you get your kids to do something? How do you get your wife to do something? You say, hey, listen, if you don't clean your room, I'm going to take something away. So that's negative leverage on your children, right? Or if you tell your spouse, if you do the dishes, I'll take you out to dinner. That's positive leverage. And yeah, another word for it is motivation. But how do you actually create? But the thing is, with motivation, most of the time it's not as strong as leverage, because if you have leverage, if you have enough whys, really it's the reasons why you have to do something. The more whys you have, the more fuel you have. All right, and then the last psychological section is emotional stress. How do you become aware of emotional states, right? And how do you manage them? And then eliminating negative emotions and negative states. And then the last section is strategies. What we'll talk about later is 60 to strength, and that's my routine that I utilize every single morning to get myself in an optimal peak emotional and mental state. Okay, and then state management. I've shared that with you before with regards to removing anxiety. There's other processes that I have in the course as well that help you to get into a peak mental emotional state. Then the trading criteria I went through last webinar, as well as the trading plan, as well as the business plan, and then the daily trading homework, and then also the notes, and then the daily trading journal. Yeah, 60 to strength. And I'll tell you why I call it that in a little bit. So the first thing you need to do in this holistic approach to trading is eliminate your limiting beliefs. As I mentioned before, that first email, the probabilities of them ever becoming a professional or master trader are going to be very difficult until they overcome or eliminate that limiting belief that it's too difficult or they can't do it themselves. And I'm sure there's a lot of you that have limiting beliefs. And then mastering your physiology. How do you get yourself in the proper body frame? Or if you start taking trades and then you start losing, right, then your body starts to shift. How do you shift your body out of that? How do you become aware of that? And how do you put yourself in the in the best body frame to consistently be at your peak mental and emotional state? Then reframing your relationships. If you had some negative relationships with success, with money, with family, how do you actually overcome those, or how do you reframe them to a way that's more empowering? And maximizing meaning. How do you take what happens to you and give it the best meaning you can? Because we can't control what happens to us. We can only control the meaning that we give it. And there's no one else that controls that. So a great example of that is they did a study on a set of twins. They had an alcoholic and abusive father that was in and out of jail, throughout their entire adolescence. And they followed the kids because they were very curious to see what would basically happen, as they grew into adulthood. And they followed them until about, I think it was 30 or 35. I forget exactly what age. But then they followed up with one of the twins, and they found that that twin was also in and out of jail, an alcoholic and abusive, and just a drudge on society. Then they found the other twin, and he was married, had kids, had a great job, and was a great member of society. And they asked them both the same question. It's like, why are you the way you are? They both gave the same reason. Because of my dad, how else would I have turned out? Now, why is that? Again, twins should be exactly the same, right? They have 99.9% of the exact same DNA, right? But one gave their situation a positive meaning, and the other one gave their situation a negative meaning. And then becoming aware of where you are currently and how your emotional states affect your trading. And then beyond that, bringing awareness to your trading and being present when you trade as well. Controlling your patterns. How do you control your thought, your emotional, your psychological patterns when you trade? And then empowering your experiences, the experiences that you have, how to basically rewire those. So if you had a very negative experience in the past, how do you actually take a look at that and then find the positive in it so you can reframe it and move that positivity into the future? And then utilizing leverage to your advantage, and then minimizing emotional stress. Okay, and here's the 60 to strength. So the reason why I call it the 60 to strength is because at the beginning, this took me about 60 minutes to get through. And then I got to the point where I can do it quickly, where I'm just doing it for 60 seconds. So at each point, I'm just doing it for 60 seconds, and it only takes approximately maybe about 10 to 15 minutes, depending on how quickly you get through it. So the first thing you start with is emotional ignition. And the purpose of emotional ignition is to get you into predetermined states of, that you find that support your trading. So, a great example of that is what extreme emotional events can I connect to for more drive? So, for example, if you've had something that happened to you in the past that, let's say financially, right, that you never ever want to happen again, then you can use that as leverage to bring yourself to do the things that you may not necessarily want to do, every single day, so to speak. So that is connecting with negative leverage to get you to, do something that you don't necessarily want to do. Then, how is today going to be amazing? And what am I grateful for? The great thing about, that question is it puts you in a state of abundance. The challenge today with most people is that they come from a mindset of scarcity, that they don't have enough. But if we think about it, we live in the greatest country in the world, the United States. And the poorest people here are actually still in the 1% of the world. 90-something% of the world live on $2.50 a day. That's not much money. And we complain about when our iPhone doesn't work, or when our internet doesn't work, or we really need to understand that we really are in a tremendous state of abundance. And when you're in that state of gratitude, when you're in that state of abundance, you can't feel another emotion at that time. So let's say you have an emotion of fear. Let's say you're fearful in the moment. If you just catch yourself being fearful, right, if you become aware of it, what you can do is you can just kind of stop, put your hands on your heart, just breathe into your heart, and then just think of some things you're grateful for, right, and fully associate with them. Just relive those moments. Maybe, when your children were born, or having something that no one else has, or experiencing something that that was incredible for you. Once you feel that gratitude, then it pushes that emotion of fear aside. Then what's my purpose? If you can align with a purpose that's outside of yourself, again, that's another motivation or piece of leverage that you can utilize to push you even further, much faster. And then how can I maximize the most of my gifts today? And then how can I create even more wealth, value, and happiness today? And what if this was my last thing on earth? How would I want to live it? So as you can see, everything in the emotional ignition already presupposes a certain state that I need to be in. So what am I grateful for? So that already presupposes I'm in a state of gratitude. Now, how can I maximize the most of my gifts today? So I already assume that I have plenty of gifts and I already utilize them. I just want to know how I can maximize those gifts. And then how can I create even more wealth, even more value, and even more happiness today? Okay, so that already presupposes I already have wealth, value, and happiness. Okay. So the next section is actualizing affirmations. So if you have like a regular affirmation, if you say, if you think of a depressed person, right? If you think of them with their body frame just, slouched over, shallow breathing, and having all those thoughts, in their head, all those negative thoughts and patterns running through their head. If you try to give them an affirmation, right? If you say, just say you're happy, they'll be say, I'm happy, I'm happy, I'm happy, I'm happy, I'm happy, and they're not going to get happy. Why is that? Because they're not congruent with what they're saying and the way they're actually holding their body. So if you were to get them to associate with something, with an experience that made them happy, right, and then just say, all right, now say you're happy, you're happy, you're happy, that's going to have a much more significant impact. So really, the actualizing affirmations are all about being congruent and getting your body and mind in the same place together. Okay. So the first one is, I have everything I need to allow me to succeed. And when I do this, and you'll see this in the course, I actually do this when I'm running on a treadmill, and I just get into a nice rhythm, and I just go, I have everything I need to allow me to succeed. I have everything I need to allow me to succeed. And then I'm just doing that, and I'm singing it. I'm singing it with passion, with energy, because the more energy you actually say it with, the more passion, the more fervor, the more it'll actually ingrain into your subconscious. And then the second one is, I get stronger by the minute, I get stronger by the hour, I can feel my strength, I can feel my power. And then you can switch that for sexier, leaner, smarter, wiser, happier, richer, etc. And then, the universe creates infinite wealth that flows around me and through me. All my needs, desires, and goals are filled as long as my mind, body, soul are free. So, again, I'm just kind of reading it very quickly. I would normally say, the universe creates infinite wealth that flows around me and through me. All my needs, desires, and goals are fulfilled as long as my mind, body, and soul are free. And then I'm actually making the hand gestures as well. You can't see it, but I'll make hand gestures that will actually, incorporate my body as well. All right, and then, I now command my subconscious mind to direct me in creating as much wealth, value, and happiness as possible today by giving the strength, the passion, the creativity, the flexibility, whatever it takes to utilize the most of my gifts and to help people better lives right now. So I just basically say that for 60 seconds each, and then just kind of get myself going, in the morning, and you just feel incredible after. Obviously just the first one, but the second one is great. Then the third piece is transformative visualizations. So what you need to do is to create your ideal life with as much detail as possible. And what I mean by that, you really need to identify the place you want to live, the car you want to drive, your ideal partner, your ideal physical stature and shape, right? And then if you can identify it to its most granular detail, the better this is going to work. And then from there, you need to find a comfortable place, close your eyes, and then just start visualizing that and actually run through it as if you were waking up in that house, right? And then what you need to do too with visualizations, you need to make it as real as possible. So what we call the five senses, or we call it modalities, okay? So there's visual, auditory, kinesthetic, olfactory, and gustatory, right? So see, hear, feel, taste, and smell. And some modalities are the way you actually interpret those modalities. So for example, from a visual standpoint, bright versus dim versus dark. All right, so that's just a different version of a visual modality. So it's called a submodality, right? And then, is it close away? Is it close to you, or is it some distance from you, or is it really really far away? Is it in focus, or is it out of focus? Okay. So what you want to do, if you want this to work extremely well, you really want to get your visualizations to the point where you're fully associated, and what I mean by that is you want to be first person and not third person. So you don't want to visualize yourself doing something, right? Like, in other words, you don't want to be basically looking through a screen or like a movie theater watching yourself do something. You want to be in first person looking through your own eyes, right? You want it to be bright. You want it to be close to you. You want to be able to, again, if you can engage the other senses as well, right? From an auditory standpoint, from a visual standpoint, from even an olfactory or gustatory standpoint. If you can taste it, if you can smell it, the more senses you can incorporate at a very, very strong or intense level, the better these visualizations will work. And then the next part is putting your best self forward. So you basically take your ideal life from from the transformative visualization, then you identify what that person has with regards to resources, right? So from an emotional state, from a physical state, from a monetary state, anything, right? And then you look at where you are today, and then you see the difference, right? So that person that's living your ideal life might have a higher level of confidence, higher level of understanding of their trading system, higher level of self-discipline, right? Higher energy levels. They understand and are aware of their emotional states. They know how to control them, right? So you look at all the different pieces that version that lives in your ideal life has, and then you basically imagine that version of you in front of you, and then you step into them before you trade. So you're basically adopting all the resources that they have. And that's a really powerful exercise as well. And then the last one is adopting awareness. And again, that's just becoming present and aware of the moment and just kind of shutting everything out and just closing your eyes, taking several deep breaths and just observing your thoughts and just meditating for a little bit, just so you're centered and you've gotten your brain and your heart rhythms at the same level. All right, so another piece, obviously, of becoming a master trader is developing self-discipline. And self-discipline is really just the ability to motivate oneself in spite of a negative emotional state. And that's what I was talking about earlier. If you can find leverage, whether it's positive or negative, right, to push yourself when you're tired or when you just don't feel like doing something, right? If you don't feel like doing your trading homework, right, how do you create the leverage or the self-discipline to get yourself to do it? And obviously it's required to maintain peak mental and emotional states, and it's an absolute necessity for becoming a master trader. And I believe I have, 14 or 15 different strategies on developing your self-discipline in the course. And then what I was speaking about earlier, how perfection is the enemy. So perfection is the mental state of being without doubt. How many of you all have actually traded ever and had moments where you had absolutely no doubt whatsoever? Many times. Awesome. Never. Okay. Never. Yes. Okay. Good. A few times. Awesome. So it's understanding how to get to that point where you have doubt, but not absolutely no doubt. Because here's the thing. If you have absolutely no doubt that your trade's going to work, what if something happens in the market that you're not expecting? Like the flash crash. When was that? I think 2012, or I forget when it was, 2012, 2013. Right? That was something that happened, and if you have absolutely no doubt or no fear, then what happens? Then you don't get out of a position that is working against you, right? Because something happened and there's new information in the market, right? So it's always good to have just a hair of healthy doubt instead of being complete without doubt or without fear. Because no trading system is foolproof or perfect. If it was, we wouldn't need trading psychology. We wouldn't need trading systems. You just only use your your trading system and that's it. So understanding that and understanding how your trading system will always have some sort of error built into it. So like I was talking about with the win-loss ratio before. Let's say if you operated your trading system to to its optimum level, right? Let's say it's 80% correct. So you still have to account for the 20% of bad trades. Okay. So if you're trying to be perfect, you're trying to chase after something that's never going to happen, because as human beings, we're not perfect, right? So if you're trying to strive for perfection, you're striving for something that can never occur. So what'll happen is it'll manifest itself as small trading losses turning into larger losses, as we talked about before, or manifesting itself as fear or hesitation. Okay. Honestly, when I was near the end of my 8 months of trading without a losing day, I got to the point where I was trying to be perfect, and it started manifesting itself as fear and hesitation. So I can speak directly to that, because your mind is trying to keep something that is not necessarily, I don't want to say possible, but just the probabilities of it happening are slim, if that makes sense. And then we also talk about black swans and statistical anomalies. And it's a great book. I believe it's Nassim Nicholas Taleb. It's a great book to read and to understand how there are times when we have those crazy things that happen, like the 2008 financial crisis, the flash crash, when Lehman Brothers went down, when Bear Stearns went down. Those things never were supposed to happen. They were too big to fail. But understanding how those play into your trading and having plans before they happen are extremely important, because if you don't have a plan set beforehand, you're going to get emotional when it does happen. And that's the worst place to be. All right. So again, we're doing a $100 off of the course if you use the code MENTAL. I believe, Peter, we said we would have this until what, April 7th? I think it was.
Yeah, I think so. I think
so you still have a little bit of time to move forward with this. What are you saying, Peter?
I was saying, yeah, I agree. I mean, I think we'll definitely keep the coupon going a little bit longer, at least until the first week of April.
Okay, cool. So you have another week, and then we will take that off, and you'll have to pay full price. So what I will do, I'll open up for questions. Thank you guys for bearing with me here. Hope you guys have gotten a lot of value out of the past 3 weeks, time we spent together. So I'll open up to questions. Also, question, is this course hands-on training? It is. It is. Obviously, when you're working through this, you can read through it, but until you actually do it yourself, then it's very difficult to make these changes. So you really need to be able to go through the course, do all the exercises to the best of your ability, and then keep on doing it, to be honest with you, because what will happen is once you first start, you'll see some phenomenal progress, right? Then you'll start to plateau, right? And then you get yourself into a different level with regards to your psychological understanding of yourself, your awareness, your consistency, and then what you need to do, you need to revisit it again. So I would definitely recommend going through this course maybe every 6 months, just because it'll accelerate your growth as a trader moving forward. Let's see here. If I buy your course, is there a lot more that we will learn from you? Yes, there is. I had to create the course in a certain way that would work for basically everyone. Now, the major challenge with regards to trading psychology is understanding somebody's thought process. Okay. Now, I can't understand your thought process unless we start, digging through that, and that's obviously something that that's available. Peter and I were talking about that, and how we could actually, put together something where I'm doing one-on-one coaching, because I'm trying to download to you, a certain thought process or a certain system, and until I understand where you're coming from, it's going to be more difficult for me to do that. So there are certain things that I will be doing in the future that will that will assist you guys in adopting the processes, adopting the systems, and becoming much better psychologically when you're trading. Question: how do you reward yourself for winning? Actually, I have that's in the course as well. I talk about a reward system and how to reward yourself when you reach certain benchmarks. And again, I'm not necessarily focused on a what's the word, on a certain dollar amount per day. I mean, I do have one as kind of a benchmark, so to speak, but I'm not completely focused on that benchmark. I'd much rather eliminate as many mistakes as possible. So if I don't have a mistake for that day, whether it's an emotional, psychological, or a trading mistake, I'll do something nice for myself. And if I do that over a certain period of time, I'll take myself to a nice dinner. If I do it for a week, I'll go to a nice dinner. Or as I get to certain metrics, then I reward myself with certain things that I want. Question: are the first 2 recordings still available? I believe they are. Peter, are they still available?
Yes, Ben, of course. The webinars are always archived, and it's at shadowtrader.net right on the webinars tab. Just scroll down. Every webinar is always there.
Okay, wonderful. Question: how long until the teachings in the course become ingrained? That's a great question, phenomenal question. And honestly, it depends on you. If you're willing to go through it and watch the videos, play full out, do all the exercises, it's going to ingrain much quicker for somebody that does that than somebody that watches it, doesn't do the exercises, approaches this with kind of a closed mind, because the things I'll teach you are a lot different than what most people will tell you to do. So it's about having an open mind, about actually going through it and really being honest, open and honest with yourself, and then really just doing it over and over and over again. Watching it, doing the exercises again, and you'll see yourself start to take extreme jumps in your capabilities. Question: do you work with students one-on-one? That's something that Peter and I are working on. We'll definitely let you guys know, when we figure that out. What do you do when you're not winning? When I'm not winning, the first thing I do is I identify whether it's just the error, the normal error variation of my trading system, or is it me? If it's just the normal variation of the trading system, I don't do anything. I just keep on trading like normal. If it's me, then what I do is then I'll identify what's going on in my head. And depending on what it is, I mean, there could be this myriad of different factors that come into play. I mean, it just really depends on what's going on in the moment and what's going on contextually with me, so to speak. And I'll do whatever is necessary to get rid of that issue, and then overcome the obstacle by using the strategies that that I show you in the course. Because, like I said before, I created all this stuff for my own use in the very beginning. I was my own first client. Question: what should be the main takeaway from the course? That's a really phenomenal question too. The main takeaway from the course really is that your trading psychology is the most important piece that you're going to have to take control of as you become a master trader. Because once you get great at the mechanics and the execution of your trading system, once you know it like the back of your hand, then it's all about bringing the optimum, best, peak version of yourself every single day to your trading. Okay, if you're bringing something less than that, then you're giving your competition a leg up already. So it's about managing your emotional states. It's about understanding how to overcome trading losses, and utilizing the daily trading plan, having multiple hypotheses of what can happen so you don't develop a directional bias. And then by doing that, you have the creativity to be flexible as the market changes, and there's new information coming to the market. So really, after you master your trading system, it's all about psychology. Question: what should the profit or loss target be per trade? Again, it really depends on what your account size is, what you're trading, and on what time frame you're trading. I mean, it really depends on you. I really don't have an answer for that. That would satisfy you, I think. It's really a personal decision. Question: does a trading journal spreadsheet come with the course similar to what you showed last week? If somebody asks me for that, I can provide that too. I will provide that, for you all. Is there any group session? That's something that Peter and I spoke about. We've been speaking about the last week. We're still trying to flesh that out. But once we do, we'll definitely let you all know. Do you talk with students one-on-one? If that's something that's coming up, definitely, that's definitely something that that will be available. Question: were you already a consistently profitable trader before you started using any of these techniques? That's a great question. Let me think about that for a second. I think I got to the point where I was consistent, but then I would lose money in like a couple days or a week, and then I would my equity curve wasn't as steep as I wanted it to be. I would make money and then lose a little bit, make money and lose a little bit. So it wasn't until I started adopting a lot of these these strategies. And remember, it's not like I bought a course and I received all the strategies all at once. No, I actually had to create these as I went. So I would figure out one part that was that wasn't optimal, or that I could improve on, and then I would sit down and think about how I could improve it, and then I would create something, right? And then I would work on that for a while, and then it would become ingrained, and then another issue would arise, and then it's like, okay, well, what do I have to do now? So it was really a series of issues that I had to look at, and then you're basically getting the the outcome or the results of me going through those series of challenges. So you're saying it's necessary to feel the power of the Force in becoming a Jedi. That I can grasp. Not exactly, but when you become a better trader as you go along. You basically, become, what I was talking about in the very first webinar, the 4 stages of learning, right? You have unconscious incompetence, conscious incompetence, conscious competence, and then unconscious competence, right? You're getting to the point where you're not even thinking about it, and then you're just kind of flowing around, and Peter, I'm sure you can speak to this as well. You're not really thinking about it. You're just basically reacting. You already know what your trading system is. You already know what your setups are. You're just kind of moving along, and really, you kind of get into a flow, and that's where the awareness and the presence, come in. Do you have a trading plan template that we could use? Yeah, it's actually included in the course. Question: shouldn't this all be incorporated into a trading plan? Maybe it's a first thing in the day step. Actually, that's what the 60 to strength does. I mean, really, I do all of this before I trade. So, I do my trading homework. I'm identifying all my significant levels. I create my different hypotheses. I'm going through the 60 to strength. I'm bringing the best version of myself every morning. So yeah, this is what I do before every single day. Can you tell us a couple of the exercises that you teach? I'm not really sure what context. Guy, if you can give me a little more context to that question, I can answer that. Bernice, that's awesome. Very cool.
All right, Ben, we're going to wrap up at 8 p.m. So if you want to just answer one more or whatever.
All right, I'll do 2 more. Is the course downloaded or only available on the web? I think it's only available on the web, right?
Yeah, but you can download the. Basically, what it is it's all digital, and you receive access to it for as long as you want. It's in perpetuity, and so you can stream it 100 times over, or you can right-click on it. You can download it if you want.
Okay. So both.
Yeah.
Okay. It's
basically both. And then all the extra add-ons that you see in there, they're all PDFs that you can, we encourage people to download those and print them out, because that's the whole key to the course, is the sort of following along, not sort of, but definitely, the following along and filling out the worksheets as you go, so that it's not just watching the videos. It's really like a dynamic thing. It's not really about watching the videos so much. I mean, it is, but it's about how you're thinking about it at the same time, like letting it sink in and really paying attention to how it applies to you. That's the thing.
Okay. All right, one last question. After taking this course with you guys, what other courses do you recommend we take with you guys? Basically, we're going to have Peter's actually uploading an ebook that I wrote a little bit ago, a few years ago. It actually it mirrors a lot of the same things, as we talk about, in the course. It's a much cheaper, price point, but again, it's not as detailed as the course. And again, for those of you that have read any trading psychology books, they're phenomenal at putting you to sleep. So I realized that before I started writing this book, and I made it as a kind of a fun story. And you follow the protagonist. His name is Victor. Through his training journey and how he becomes a better trader. And yeah, it's interesting how I specifically created the questions in a way to help you identify your own challenges, because it's really difficult for us to look inwards at times, because we're obviously emotionally involved in our lives. So it's about disassociating yourself, with certain questions, and then trying to figure out what's actually your challenge by reassociating.
Yeah, it's very cool. It's like it's very nonfiction, obviously, subject matter, but in the context of a fictional story, where Ben kind of wove it in to a fictional story, but at the same time teaching all this subject matter of trading psychology as you follow the protagonist through the typical pitfalls that traders go through mentally, which is kind of cool. It's fun. It's a fun read.
Okay. Awesome. Well, it's 5 o'clock. Thank you all for coming. Glad we could share this, this time together. I hope you guys received some tremendous value, from the time we spent together. And Peter, you have anything else you want to say?
No, that's about it. Shadowchair.net is where it's all at. And like Ben was saying, the coupon code is still going to be up for a little while longer, at least until like the first week of April. So you can get the series for $100 off. And Ben, I'm sure we'll have you back again at some point, probably in a couple months. We'll do some more training psychology webinars. As Ben was saying, he has some really good ideas that we haven't completely fleshed out yet. We're not sure how to do it yet, but he wants to do like a group thing, as you were saying, right, Ben? And
Yes.
Definitely some one-on-one stuff like that. So we're going to figure out how best to present that on the website, and then we'll run with it. So it'll be cool. All right. Ben, thank you so much.
All right. Oh, they have one more question. The regular price is $4.95, but if you use the coupon code, it's $3.95. And again, $3.95 to invest in your entire trading career is a very, very minimal investment.
Agreed. All right, guys. So thank you again to Ben. Thank you guys all for coming. Remember, this has been recorded. Within about a couple hours, I'll have it on the website, shadowchair.net, on the webinars tab. It'll be there. You'll also receive an email from GoToWebinar telling you that the recording is there. All right. So everybody have a wonderful evening. Take care. Good night.